Now that our hole is drilled, we are going to put a thread in the hole. To do that, we would use a tap, and you can see here as a tap. They have two different sections of this tap. You have the starting threads, which are the first few right here, which are smaller and flatter, which initially start to cut the hole out, and then you have the finishing threads, which will clean out and make the threads whole. This tap is a 1/4 inch by 28, so it's a 1/4 28. That is telling us that it's going to be a 1/4 inch bolt with 28 threads per inch. In order to drill the hole, the right size hole, we use a chart much like this one right here. This is an Imperial tap drilling chart. We were using steel, and if we can move down the chart, you'll see here's our 1/4 inch. The whole side, the decimal point of that is 25 thousandths of an inch. If we move over at the 28 threads per inch line, we need a 228 thousandths of an inch hole based on this tap or this chart. And so that's what we drilled with our drill. Before we start, some things that we need to point out about a tap is that they are made of a very hardened metal, and because of that they will not take any side load or torque from a side. Also, if you're pushing them into your metal a little hard, the tip will break off, or one of these little thread cutters will break off. As they break off inside, because it's such hard metal, you cannot drill them out. A drill bit will not drill it out. It'll actually break the drill bit. So if you break them off in there and you can't get a center punch in to punch it through, your hole has become void and you'll have to start over with another hole. Alright, we will set up and we will go ahead and tap this hole that we've drilled. So here's the hole that we drilled on the last segment that we're talking about, and this once again is our 1/4 28 tap that we're going to be using. The important thing now is that we set this tap into the hole and it barely enters off of those cutting threads. You want to make sure that you're straight and perpendicular to the piece of metal so that you can get your nut or your bolt in straight. And then with the tap, you'll take the handle and put on it, and you'll turn it until it bites in really good, and you'll feel a back pressure come on. And as that back pressure comes on, there'll come a point when you want to stop, and you're going to back it up until you feel it free up again, and then you're going to continue with pulling your threads. It's always important to make sure that as you do this, that you make sure that you use your thread cutting oil on your tap. It's always important to reduce the friction. It keeps you from breaking the tap, and it also makes a much cleaner thread. So we're going to start tapping by putting the tap in the hole and putting the tap handle on. And as I said, you'll start turning it until it starts to bite in really good. And you'll feel it put a lot of back pressure against you. And as you feel the back pressure, that's the time. It's almost there. So as I'm having to put a lot more pressure on with my fingers now to pull it, I'm going to stop, back up till it frees up, and then I'll start going back forward again, catching the thread, and there it catches. A drop of oil just to keep it lubricated. Turn it until it catches. You can feel about it on this one, it's about a half a turn, and you can feel it bite. Stop, back up, it frees up, then you can continue cutting the thread. This is a fairly thin piece of metal, so we shouldn't have to do this too often before we break through. and then we can go ahead and clean the threads with the cleaning tap. Yeah, feel it? There it starts to break through. And as it breaks through, then we can clean the threads. And we now have a well-threaded hole ready to receive the bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and reverse it, back the tap out. And we can take a cloth I have here, and we'll clean the oil off, and you can see the threads inside of the hole now. So that concludes the tapping part. Next segment that we will work on is how to put a thread on a shaft that we will put into this to hold it.